What have I learned from listening to probably over 1,000 damage restoration calls across the years? I'm going to share it with you in this episode.
This isn't just any podcast. This is your secret weapon for dominating the market.
This is the Restoration Marketing Secrets Podcast, and this is your host, Sean McMean.
Welcome to episode 5 of Restoration Marketing Secrets. Again, this is Sean McMean. I'm your host. Today's episode is all about my experience of listening to well over 1,000 phone calls over the years from other restoration companies. And one of the things that is a little frustrating sometimes is to hear phone calls come in that are qualified, but the phone isn't answered correctly. Whether it's a busy business owner, contractor, or it's a team member that doesn't answer the phone correctly. And what I mean by correctly is, number one, saying, "Thank you for calling Damage Restoration Company. How can I help you?" Right? That's the first thing you should say whenever a phone call comes in. Not, "Hey, this is Sean," or "Hey, it's Tom here," or "Tom," or those things like that put people off. Like they're not calling a buddy or something like that. They're not calling a family member. They're calling a business for help on typically an emergency or some sort of thing that's caused damage in their house, right? And so, or property or business or whatnot. So you have to answer the phone correctly. Again, that is something by saying something like, "Thank you for calling Damage Restoration Company. How can I help you?" Right? And then that person is going to understand who they're calling, and then they're going to feel a little bit more comfortable about continuing on. And usually they're going to say whatever they're calling about, right? They could be calling saying, "I got a flood in my basement." They could be calling saying, "I had somebody come out and dry something, and can you come rebuild something?" I mean, any number of things, right? And they're going to go into details about that. But you have to answer the phone professionally. And I cannot tell you how many times I've listened to phone calls that go to a restoration damage contractor's cell phone. He's busy out doing a job and cannot answer that phone correctly, and you lose that trust right out of the gate. And that first impression, you're never going to get that opportunity again with that person. That first impression is key. So answer the phone professionally by saying, "Thanks for calling," and insert your restoration company name. "How can I help you?" That's basically how you would answer the phone call, right? Let them tell their quick story about what's going on. And then here's the next step of this is you have to ask questions. What kind of questions should you be asking? This is one of the things that I get a lot from companies that are just starting out or haven't been in the industry very long, or they sometimes they're receiving phone calls and they feel like some of them aren't qualified or whatnot. So asking the right questions and in a specific order will help you further qualify this call and determine if you need to refer them to somebody else or if you can actually help them. It all starts with answering the phone professionally, but then those questions come in right after. The client's going to call, or the homeowner's going to call, and they have a problem on their mind that might not even be like, they might call and say, "Well, I need help with a crack in my foundation," right? And you could answer that phone and say, "Well, I don't do cracks in foundation." Well, why are you calling? Dig a little deeper on that. But before you do that, ask some specific questions first. Number one, seems like common sense, but as we get busy and we're doing things, once they give you that first, "Hey, this is what's going," or "Hey, this is why I'm calling," after you said, "How can I help you?" they're gonna. Here's your opportunity to vet this call out and see if this is going to turn into a 10-minute conversation and a visit to the property, or if this is something you can help them, something that you can't help them with, right? So ask the questions, and here's kind of, and you can change this up a little bit, but this is how a general consensus of how you should answer a damage restoration call, right? Person calls in, you get their name, their phone number. Seems pretty obvious on those things. And then you ask, how did you hear about us? Like, ask them where they heard from you, right? So did they search on Google? Did they people don't know if it's an ad, or they don't know if it's Google guaranteed or anything like that online. But did you find us online? Did you find us on Google? Those types of things. So how did you hear about us? Let them tell you that. So it could be online, it could be a referral, it could be a plumber that you have a relationship with. They could have saw your truck, the neighbor down the street. Critically important that you document this, how they heard about you. Okay. And what this will do is help you understand, they initially said, hey, I need help with the Kraken Foundation, right? But maybe a foundation company referred them to you and they actually have a leak in their basement that needs mitigation, right? Or dried out or whatever. So don't just assume that initial response from them about why they're calling is what they truly need help with, right? So you can go down that rabbit hole of they don't know how to ask the question, right? Many homeowners, as you guys know, if they have never dealt with a damage restoration company, they don't know what you guys do specifically. They've just been either told to call you or they searched online for a solution to a problem and they found you, right? So always ask those questions up front. Name, phone, how did you hear about us, right? And dig a little deeper on how did you hear about us, right? Did you find me online? Great. Okay, did you go out to Google to search that? Great. So that gives you a little more context of where your calls are coming from. And then you can, from there, obviously ask them the property address, where you're located at. That's critical, right? You want to make sure it's within the area that you can you can call it. You can do the work, right? The next piece of it is ask them like what type of property of it, what kind of structure is this? Is this an apartment? Is it a home? Is it a condo? Single family home? Those types of things. And that could also be related to, is this for a home or is this a business, right? So is this a home or a business, right? They say home, great. What type of home is it? Is it condo, apartment, single family home? Those types of things. And that can gear you towards how to address the issue. If they say it's apartment, you're clearly going to ask, are you the homeowner, right? So that's that next piece. Whether it's a home or a business, you have to approach those a little differently. So let's talk about home first, right? So if it's a home, they say apartment or condo or whatever. Okay, do you lease or rent this property? Are you the owner? What's your relationship to the owner? And they'll tell you, oh, we lease it or whatever. So clearly they can't sign the contract and pay you for this work, right? Because they have a lease. And so you need to talk to the property owner. A lot of times I hear, okay, you rent a home, you're a condo, and then the conversation ends. What you want to do is get the property owner's contact details and close that loop, because there clearly is a job here that needs help with, because you've asked them, they've kind of told you about what they need help with, and you need to talk with that property manager in order to close that loop there, right? If it's a single family home, do you own that home? Do you rent the home? Those types of questions you need to ask. And so what might be difficult here is some people might be calling you and they could be pissed off or upset because they have this big issue going on. But you truly have to vet these out. And otherwise, you're going to be sending your team out there wasting their time, right? And you want to make sure you're only spending your time on jobs that you can actually do, right? So these questions are critically important. So if it is a business, one of the logical questions, are you the business owner? Many times, just because you're the business owner, you lease the property or you rent the property, you don't necessarily own the building. And so that, again, is a situation where you have to figure that out and then determine, okay, we need to talk to the building owner, right, in order to progress forward with this. Those are critical components in order to understand, whether you can help them or, whether you're wasting your time here, right? If they're leasing and renting the building, they're not going to have the decision to, they probably don't have the coverage, number one, for insurance side, for the loss. But at the end of the day, the property owner is going to be the person that makes the decision here, whether you're going to do the job or not. So you going out there and looking at it could be a waste of your time if you don't talk to the property owner first. Then finally, you need to figure out the details, like what type of job is this? Is this a flood? Is it a leak? Is it a overflowed toilet? All of those details will come in at the end there, but you gotta go through that first part in order to understand who they are, name, phone, How did you hear about us? Address, property type. Okay, it's a home. Do you own the home? If not, who's the property manager? Same thing for the business. If you can do this, if you can answer the calls this way, you're going to win more jobs, and you're going to save a lot of time and frustration on the back end by going out to jobs that you can't do anything about because you're not dealing with the person that's going to make the decision. So hopefully that makes sense. Like I said before, I've listened to so many calls, and these are some of the best practices. There's many other ways to do this, but at the end of the day, if you're doing these basic things, you're gonna like I said, win more jobs, and you're going to save a lot of time on your end. And by all means, when you collect this information, do not lose the information. You need to have some sort of way to document it, and a little post-it note is not going to do it. For our clients, we have a dashboard where you can actually fill out all these details when the call comes in. So that is one way of doing it. You can have a notebook. That's one way of doing it. But if you're answering the phone call, you need to be asking these questions, or if your team is answering it, you need to be asking those questions. And if you're the owner, you need to be reviewing those calls to make sure these questions are asked or are getting asked and answered on the phone calls. Because you can have a process, you can have all of these things in place, but if you're not the one reviewing those, at least you need to be doing that on a regular basis to make sure your team is following this process, right? So hopefully this was helpful. Again, it's all about how you answer the phone call professionally and asking the right questions, and you will win more jobs. Until next time, this is Sean McMean. Hopefully this was helpful. Thanks again for following along on this journey.
You've been listening to the Restoration Marketing Secrets Podcast. Sean's not here to just talk the talk. He's walked the walk. With a track record of helping over 70 damage restoration companies and engaging in over 500 conversations with industry owners, he's seen it all. From digital marketing triumphs to the most ingenious growth hacks, he's got the keys to the kingdom, and he's sharing them with you. We hope you've enjoyed the show. If you did, make sure to like, rate, and review. We'll be back soon. But in the meantime, for more, hit the website at restorationmarketing.com. See you next time on the Restoration Marketing Secrets Podcast.